What's up, everybody? So, as I have said, I'm trying to get back on my healthy journey thing. And while some of that includes exercise, some of that also includes trying to eat as better as I can. Not perfect, not flawless, but as better as I can. Keeping in mind, I'm not really a cook in the traditional sense of the word. Now, I am going to basically prepare something that will last 2 days. This is sort of a prep thing I do. I prep for 2 days or for 4, depending on what I'm using. I've decided to prep for 2 days because I did not want to be too ambitious with this video. There's a part of me that's been reluctant to show any of my food prep on the channel because people have very specific opinions about what healthy is and what healthy isn't. Now, obviously, if I was sitting here making like a 3-layer cake and telling you I'm trying to eat healthy and then I tried to down the whole cake and then rinse it down with like a liter of soda, that is obviously very not healthy. I also think there's a thing between like nutrition and weight loss goals. And the thing is, you can eat a lot of nutritious stuff, but if you're not burning calories you're storing, for the most part, they're still stored calories. And so it's tricky finding sort of the right balance between wanting to eat the right kind of foods as much as possible, and then also, there's an echo in here, weird. Wanting to eat the right foods as much as possible, but also wanting to fall within not only a calorie goal, but for me, a certain amount of macronutrients. Now, a thing I always struggle with is protein. And what I find, and one of the reasons I don't focus on carbs, besides the fact I think carbs have been villainized the way fat used to be villainized, and whenever you villainize a macronutrient, it's going to backfire at some point for some people. So I don't tend to villainize any of my macronutrients. I do think I'm a little heavier on the carbs and lighter on the protein than I would like to be, and so I would like to get those things into a better balance, but because I do not eat meat, I sometimes find that challenging. I also, again, do not like to cook. I know it would be much better for me to buy fresh vegetables, but buying fresh vegetables at a portion and amount where I would actually use it and not waste any and not end up with a bunch of wasted vegetables is a challenge, and I don't want to waste money. So, stir fry. This is my thing. I love bags of well, I guess this isn't legit stir fry. This is just a bag of mixed vegetables. It's frozen, so it's not going to go bad. I can prepare this in one go, split it into 2 servings, and split it between the 2 servings of the meal I'm going to make. So I have this bag of steamables. Technically, this is supposed to be made in the microwave, but it does have stovetop directions, so I'm going to be using those. The second thing I'm going to be adding is rice. I just happen to have some of these in the cabinet. This is called also a cabinet mix. Again, I'm going to take 2 servings out of this, even though technically the box says it's a 3-serving box, but I'm going to reportion it into 2 servings. For this, it does require margarine. I have some vegan margarine that I'm going to be using instead, and water. And so I'm going to use the preparation instructions on the back and make the rice. I have a pack of this, which is everyday dal. It's red lentil, butternut squash, and coconut. I don't know how I feel about squash. I can't say words. I don't know how I feel about squash. I can't say I've been exposed to it a lot. And for coconut, I've never liked coconut. But since it's mixed up in this package, I may not even notice it. It may be like mushrooms. I do not like mushrooms. Do not like them. But when they're cooked and kind of hidden in something, it's fine. I don't like tomatoes, but I don't mind tomato sauce. I don't mind tomatoes sort of cooked again into something. If they're really tiny diced tomatoes on like pizza or something, I don't notice it. So if it's cooked and mashed and mushed in something, I can stand it. I just don't like a whole slice of tomato on anything I eat where I recognize this is a tomato. Sorry, I'm not a tomato fan. There's so many things that fall into like vegetarian options on many menus where excuse me, there will be one ingredient where I'm like, unfortunately I don't like that. I'm a terrible person to feed, and everybody wants to feed me, and I honestly rather they not, because I'm just It's easier not to be offered than to have to say no. And then there is the tofu. Again, this is the protein. I'm gonna slice it in half, use half of it to split between 2 servings, so about a quarter of this will end up in each serving. Or maybe I should just flat out half it. That's an idea. Because one of the main things I want is protein. One of the things tofu has is protein. Now, what I find is once tofu is cooked, I barely like notice anything but like a texture that I really like. I love buying this kind of tofu because it's most of the way there and I don't have to go through any extra steps to sort of make it into something. I can literally like throw this in the oven for a bit, throw it in a pan for a bit, and warm it up and mix it into something the way I'm going to do here and have a meal. I don't know if this qualifies as cooking so much as throwing things with instructions together, but this is what we're gonna do. So we're gonna be starting out with the spring vegetables. We're pretty much gonna follow the stovetop directions straight out. So I have these collapsible measuring cups that I kind of love because you can hang them flat and then they just kind of pop open. So usually one of these, we're gonna put some water into our steamables. So my second burner here actually doesn't have an igniter anymore, so I have to light it with a lighter, but otherwise it works fine. Once I got the vegetables good and going, it was time to move on to the next step. And in the next step, I was actually going to completely ignore the stovetop instructions. With these little baggy things that I throw on top of rice, I honestly just sit them in a pot of hot water and that heats up all the contents inside. With the vegetables boiling, it was time to take the water down to a simmer. So I'm gonna warm up the oven for the tofu. It can be a tad bit tricky. Sometimes it doesn't come on the first go. Alright, it's going now. And so it's warming up. And so it's ready. Well, it's not ready, but it's warming up. Now with the tofu, I'm going to go ahead and cut it open. That's it. What I like about these is, come on, they're pretty much ready to go. They're as close to ready to eat as you can get over the counter. Well, that's not true. There's some that are a little bit closer. So I'm going to grab. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this whole thick thing. I'm going to cut it in half. I'm going to eyeball it. Yeah, that's pretty close. And then I'm going to cut these 2 different ways. And the reason why I do that is it makes it easier to tell what the half is. Sometimes I cut them into smaller portions before I put them into the final meal. But by cutting them in 2 different directions, normally, what do? I did this, so I want to do this. I can tell what my 2 different halves are and cook them at the same time. So I cut one the short way, cut one the long way. And I basically have this pan, and I'm just going to warm these up in the oven. Eventually, they're going to be mixed in with everything else. So I don't feel the need to do anything special to it. I like as much low effort as I can put into this. So, yeah. Alright, so I'm going to take these veggies and put them in this bowl because I'm going to need to use this for the rice. They are a little mushy, so if that matters to you, it doesn't matter to me because in the end they're all going to be mixed up anyway. for taste for me, so it doesn't bother me. But if that bothers you, you may not be able to do it my way. Like I said, this is just an easy way to distribute a serving of veggies into this, and enhance sort of that. And once it's all mixed in there, it really won't make a real difference at all. Alright, let's see here. Whoop. Whoop. Alright, I'm going to wash this out and then we're going to be ready for rice. Now for the rice, we're pretty much going to be following the instructions to the letter, because I don't trust myself to get creative. We are going to be substituting the ingredient of butter for vegan butter, but that's the only kind of swap we're making. And so once I had the butter in the pan, it was time to fire up that burner again and get to cooking. With the butter melted, it was time to brown the rice. With the rice a light golden brown, I added the water and the seasoning. Then I gave it just a bit of a stir. My rice topper had been on heat long enough, so I took it out of the water. And I left the water there, because I was going to use it for something. I wanted my tofu evenly browned, so I took them out of the oven so that I could start to flip them over. My rice water was boiling, so it was time to top it off and set it to a simmer. So now that everything's kind of on its way, the rice is on its last simmer, the tofu is getting slightly browned on the other side. I've pulled this out of the water. It's pretty warm. I'm going to leave it packaged to hold in the warmth while we're getting that last simmer on. And then my vegetables are sitting here. And so while that's going on, now I need to calculate sort of a serving. And what I use is I use my Fitness Pal and I use a calculator. So it gets to be pretty fun, sort of. So basically I'm going to take this package, and luckily with a lot of modern stuff you can just scan it in. So I'm going to run the scanner over the barcode, and it's going to give me 1 serving of the box. The problem is I'm not eating 1 serving, I'm eating half a box per serving, and since this has 3 servings in it, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use grams, so in this case it's 204 grams, and what I'm going to do with that 204 grams is I'm going to put it in half, which is 102 grams, and then I'm going to calculate 102 grams, and that is the dry mix in this box. And I'm going to calculate that as part of dinner. Then, silly me, I put it away. I added, besides water, which has no calories, I added this guy. And so I'm going to scan this in. Now I put 2 tablespoons in the mix. That means that there's 1 tablespoon per serving in the end game. And so 1 tablespoon is already selected by default when I scan that in. Next time maybe I'll do a screen capture while I'm doing this. But anyway, so I just added that 1 teaspoon to that. Now my vegetables, I'm going to grab the packaging for the vegetables. Here it is. Again, I'm going to scan the barcode. And I'm going to use grams again, because I'm going to calculate half a bag for my serving. So it's 283 grams. I don't actually know what that is, so I'm going to open up the calculator on my phone. I can't do that as mental math. Call me slow. Divided by 2. So it's 141.5 grams. Wait, what did I just say? 141.5? And so now I've calculated half of the steamable bag per serving. Then the other thing I added was braised tofu. So I'm going to scan in the braised tofu. And once again, this isn't always true, but in this case, honestly, grams are the easiest thing to use. So it's 227 grams, which again I cannot do off the top of my head. So 227 divided by 2 is 113.5. So that's what we're going to put in the app. All right, and let me see. And then what am I missing? Let's see. I have the rice. I have the butter that I use to make the rice. I have the tofu. I have the vegetables. I don't have the butternut squash thing. And so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to scan the package just like before. Come on, you want to agree with me. And luckily this defaulted to half the container, which is 142 grams, which is what's listed on here. Now mind you, the better way to do this would be to actually put this on a food scale, which I do own and verify, but I don't see a point in that. Like, I'm the only person eating this food, so even if like 1 serving is a little more or less that thing, this pretty much covers what I need to know. So I'm going to add that half a pack. Now, if I prepped like 4 days ahead, all I would have to do is copy this meal over for 4 days. Because I'm going to be prepping 2 servings that are identical. Tomorrow I'll just copy this and I'll just eat without having to go through all of the calculations. So every 1 to 4 days I have to do a calculation, and then that calculation runs a few days and then I do another one. For me, it's not that big of a deal. I know some people really hate this. And so it just gives me, again, data. Now for me, data's cool. I like data. Not data from Star Trek, even though I do like data. But yeah. So yeah, that's what that is. And if I go to, let me see, nutrition, I actually have hit my protein goal for the day, which is like 20%. You can't see the screen at all, but there's like a little thing up here, and protein is this little orange one. I'm actually at 21% protein right now, which is kind of where I want to be, between what I've eaten for the day as far as what I've recorded. There's a couple of other little things I need to throw on here, but now I can just not worry about this. The calculation is done and I can just eat dinner. That's some dinner, Mickey boy. So I know it's pretty ghetto, but since I don't have a lid, I use this pan with the broken handle as sort of a flip lid. And I just don't want to take up space with another pot. So this has been working in an awkward way, just so I could get things to simmer with a lid on it. My timer is still going, but this looks like it's pretty much done. I've sort of taken a peek at it. So we're going to go ahead and turn this off. And then this is where it gets a bit tricky. So I have to get it off. So lift it up a little bit. Boom. Let all the hot water steam out. Put that over there. Alright, and then I need a spoon. Oops. This hot water that I boiled that bag in is going to be great for washing dishes later or soaking a pot. So I've just kind of left it there. In fact, I'll probably use it to soak this pot, pan, whatever. I don't know the difference. I'm not a cook. Alright, so this is pretty much ready. I'm going to leave that there. And now we get to portioning, which does take a little bit of math. Okay, so I basically did this with the camera off, but what I did was I have a scale that's on 0 when one of these empty containers is on it. Then what I did was I took the vegetables and I split them so that they are exactly into a half portion, or as close as I can get it. All of this stuff is a little inexact, like it's never going to be perfect, but if you're close enough, you're kind of being true to yourself. So now I'm going to use an empty container to find out how much this weighs in grams and split it into 2 equal portions. So I'm going to pour all of this out. Again, I'm a little bit nervous. I don't recall ever having butternut squash. So this is going to be a new taste for me. This was gifted to me by someone who's ordered the wrong thing. And so she gave me these and I was like, sure, I'll try it. And I figured I would eventually mix it with some rice. So this is 268 grams on its own. So what I want to get it to is 134. So we're just going to scoop some out until we get to 134. Ooh, there's something like chunky right there. My timer just went off. Okay. So, the rest of this should be able to go in here. And so, these should weigh about the same. So now I'm using my broken handle pan and I have my scale tared out to 0. I'm going to use this to get an actual weight on the cooked portion. And then I'll divide that in half. So what we have, according to this, is 476 grams. And so, again, that means I need to get this down to 238. So I'm going to scoop some into here until I get this down to 238. So that's 1 serving. Okay, these are nice and brown. I like it. As I said, I sliced it 2 different ways. Like this is 1/2 and this is the other half, the short way and the long way, just so I can figure out who belongs to which half. And that way I don't have to measure them. They are 2 different sizes that I can distinguish, but I still don't want them this thick going into there like smaller cube size pieces. This was just an easy way for me to tell what was 1/2 and what was the other half. I probably could have actually taken these out a little bit sooner. They're a little gamey, but that's okay. Maybe some of these thinner pieces would have been better, but they're still kind of, that's why I like chopping them up a little bit, because they're still kind of soft and chewy on the inside. And by the time you mix it up in all of this, like, it becomes totally fine, at least for me. Like, this works for me as an easy way to add some protein to everything. Now, this one is going to be stored, but it needs to cool down a little bit before it is. So we're just going to put a lid on this, but not close it all the way. And that's going to be a portion for another day. Now, this one I'm going to eat. Now, the thing about this container is it's not a good eat out of it container, because everything, there isn't enough room to really blend the ingredients up. And I like to do a whole blended thing. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to cut up my second half of tofu. And I don't feel like I'm wasting dishes, because I'm going to use something I used earlier. Oopsie. I also feel like I could have put some salmon in this, because that's another thing I'll eat besides tofu is salmon or tuna packs. But I've been really leaning on the tofu lately. So let's get rid of this pan, because we don't need it anymore. I'm going to thank Chantel for My Basic Journey. I finally tracked down a nice sized pan. Alright. So I'm going to take all this and drop it in here. Boop. And then I'm going to take this serving and I'm going to just slide it all down. Alright, cool. So now everything's mixed up in one bowl. I have my spork. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to mix it all up. And then we're going to take a taste of this and see if throwing all these together in a bowl works out. But I figure you go to places and you order stuff and you just mix it all together in the bowl. Like, bowls are really a thing. So this is my bowl. And we're going to give it a try in a second. So, no meal is complete without a spot of tea. We're going to be doing a little ginger peach. And so, I've debated if I should buy a tea kettle. And decided against it. Because, okay, so this cup has a pour. Let me see if I can get the camera to go up. And so, I can use it as a pan. And I can use it for tea water. And I don't want to own anything redundant. I just don't see the point. It would be nice to have a tea kettle, but I don't actually see why I need it, and it would be just another thing I had to store. I just can't justify buying one when heating up water in a pot has worked so far. So we're going to drop our tea bag in and let that start to seep. Because as I said, I think I should have been born British. There is no good meal without a spot of tea. I don't know. Are British people like that, really, or is it just a stereotype? So here we go. Taste test of my bowl. This is actually take 2 because I was talking to the camera and didn't realize it was on. But anyway, I have a little tofu in here. I have some of the vegetables, have some of the rice, have some of the butternut squash, all in this big bowl. I hate chewing on camera, but it tastes good. I'm actually pretty happy with it. Excuse me. I didn't know how to react to, like, the butternut squash. I didn't know what it was going to taste like, but it actually tastes pretty good. I'm pretty happy with it. So, yeah, there's a bowl. A homemade vegetable tofu rice pilaf thing. This is why I don't cook. Alright, bye, guys. Thank you for joining me for another video. I'm gonna have to ask you guys to forgive me now that I've started this new job. My video upload schedule is not gonna get any better. And YouTube does reward consistency, But the way you can help me fight the algorithm on this is when I do post a video, please watch them all the way through. Also remember to leave those thumbs up, leave comments, and if you're not subscribed, please subscribe. Also check that you're still subscribed if you used to be subscribed, because YouTube will kick people off occasionally for reasons unknown. So if you can do all of those things, it'll help me as I try to get settled in at this new job and get back on some sort of regular upload schedule. I don't really have a picture of what that can be yet, and I probably won't until at least next week. But I thank you for watching this video. I thank you for sticking in here with me, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video. As always, we gotta end this with special thanks to my supporters on Patreon and YouTube memberships. Bye-bye.